What did you guys think when you saw the mirrors coming in? Did you guys check those out? Now, some of you were like, yay, mirrors, and you went right to it, right? You were like, awesome. Some of you were like, walk the other way. Keep your distance. I don't want to see this. All right, now, a mirror is there to give us truth. That's the whole point of it. In fact, when you see a mirror, what do? Right? You approach it, you already kind of have an idea. You have like, this is what I think I look like. And then you get there and you're like, oh. And then you start like fixing stuff. Like, I didn't know my hair. I realized like, oh, posture, shoulders back, stand up, the gut, suck that in. What you feel like, oh, okay, I look a certain way. You approach the mirror and it says, no, that's not what's going on. So then you start to check for spinach or a little thing in your eye. I'm good, okay, all right. And you want to make sure everything looks right. So the mirror's there to tell you the truth about you, okay? So you're looking in that truth. But a mirror is not the only way you find truth about yourself, is it? Because, I mean, really, that's just your image of you. You look at it and you're like, oh, that's what I think I look like. But what happens is other people also tell you what they think. Now that changes it. Maybe you think back, especially when you're in school, right? School's the toughest, probably elementary, middle school, high school. You show up and someone goes, oh, you're tall. Or, oh, you're fat. Or, oh, you're pretty. Or, you're smart. Or, your clothes look weird. Your shoes are old. And then they start saying things to you. And now you go back to that same mirror and you're like, I don't know. Maybe I should be as dark as these good-looking people here in the front. Like, my skin's not, oh, my hair. Maybe I need to be tall. Maybe I need to look. And now, what we thought was truth, this is what I think about myself. I look at the mirror, and that's my idea. Now other people have told me something about myself, and then I look at the same mirror, and I see myself differently now because, well, I've gained new information from you, and this is what you think about me. How many of you are married? No cheers, right? Just hands up quietly. Wow, come on, that was a great reaction there. How many of you are married? Yeah, all right. Marriage is an eternal mirror, isn't it? Right? There's no hiding who you are from your spouse. When you're dating, you go and you're good and you look good and you feel good, and then you leave and you're like, you change, you be yourself. You're like, and then all the bad can be out. But once you get married, they see the good, they see the bad, they see the ugly, they see you physically at all times. They get all of your attitudes, they get your good attributes, they get your grumpiness, they get your flaws. They end up seeing everything, right? And that's what makes marriage hard. It's because now you have this truth teller telling you, oh, you do this, you do this, you do that, you're like this, And what happens in that relationship, either you guys learn to handle it with grace because now you're exposed to one another, or it begins to separate it because you don't like the exposure, you don't like the visibility, you don't like the reaction to the truth about you. The good, the bad, the ugly starts to come out. And how it gets dealt with, whether it's in a marriage, which forces it to happen, or even in parent-child relationships where it happens at another level, or in a community and you start to go to a church for a long time and then people start to get to know you and then they learn about you. And it's harder to keep the image up that we like to see and we like others to see. So that exposure becomes truth. So how do we really know the truth about ourselves? Because we have a perception, and then we have what people say, but people aren't always right. Don't they? They come with bad agendas. Like those bullies, those kids that said those things, those people who wanted something from you, so they praised you, they had different agendas for why they said that, and now you've added it to what you think of yourself. Even in your spouse, they have their own priorities and perspectives and flaws that they're coloring into their view of you, and now you're adopting that. And so it's hard to know what is really true about me, because I know I could be wrong about it. You could be wrong about it. People could have different ideas. And so it's important for us to find out what is true. Jesus says you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. The only way into an intimate relationship with God or with anyone is to come to the point of truth and to be gracious enough to accept that truth and to work through it. Now, we see this illustrated in God's word in James chapter 1, verse 23. He actually talks specifically about a mirror. It says, "For if anyone's a hearer of the word but not a doer, he's like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself, he goes away, and at once he forgets what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law." Now, what's the perfect law? The perfect law is Jesus. God's word tells us that Jesus lived the law and fulfilled it. So the perfect law isn't the list of rules. The perfect law is the life of Christ. He fulfilled all things in the law. So when you look into Jesus, you look to him, the perfect law, which is the law of liberty, and you persevere, being not a hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing. So God's word tells us that Jesus and our understanding of him as written in God's word is how we find the truth about ourselves. That we can't just rely on our feelings or our thoughts or ideas in ourselves, and we can't rely on what everyone else tells us, because that could be false as well. We need to look to God to know what is really true about my identity, my character, who I am, what I do, what's right, what's wrong about me. And so the only way to find freedom in my life is to accept the truth about myself, the good, the bad, the ugly. And so what I want you to remember today when we leave is this: that Jesus gives you grace enough to face the truth about yourself. Okay? Jesus gives you grace enough to face the truth about yourself. Let's pray a moment. God, as we think of this simple statement that we want to take root in our hearts, we pray that you would use your words and your spirit in this place to teach us this, and let it become real to us beyond a speech or sermon or service, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, 1 John 1:8 starts, "If we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us." That's a very bold statement that God makes. If we say we have no sin, we're lying to ourselves. There's no truth in us. This is a starting point for a two-part that we're going to talk about in 1 John 1:8 through 10. We'll continue this next week as well. But this is an important starting point, because what we would like to do, everyone, I'm assuming you, I know what I would like to do, and I hope I'm a typical person, is we want to cover all the negative or the bad things about us and only present ourselves as good. I want to be good. I want you to think I'm good. I want to look good. I want it to be presented that way. That's why criticism is so hard, because we want to feel good and to look good. And that's why a mirror can be so hard. Because you could feel in your mind, well, this is who I am. And then you look and you go, oh, no, I need to do some work here. Right? And so when the truth comes in, we begin to expand. And so what God gives us here says, if we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves. In order to know the truth about yourself, you also have to face the sin that's in you. That's an important piece. Do you know, we all, I think, would desire a church that would ignore our sin and only talk about other ones. Or we would desire a society that just says there is no sin. Don't worry about it. We're all okay. Or we would want friends who embrace our sin and think it's fun or cool or just part of things. And then ourselves, like we like to deny that we have sin. But when we do that, we actually become enslaved to that sin, because now it becomes the secret, or it becomes the thing that we hold on to, that we say is more important and more valuable than what God's word and what God thinks about me. So this is what I'm going to hold on. And it becomes our ruler. It becomes the thing we value most, because we want to lie about our entire life to protect that thing and to make it so valuable. But what God wants to do is bring us to a place of truth where we recognize it for what it is. And when we recognize it from what it is, then we can see that Jesus is gracious enough to take us with our sin and with our bad and with our good, and he receives us. It says if we say we have no sin, we're only deceiving ourselves. And so this mirror of God's word takes us into that place first. Now, to help us receive this grace of Jesus and face the truth about our sin, I want to share 2 case studies of how Jesus interacts with people and deals with this in a certain way, okay? Now, the first one is Matthew chapter 19. Matthew 19 is this little section where it's called the rich young ruler. This is a man who came to Jesus to ask him a question, and he's called the rich young ruler. That's a nice title to have. Like, I wouldn't mind for that to be, oh yeah, that rich young ruler, Jeff, you know? Like, those are all good things in my book. So like, if you're rich, yeah, I can take care of myself. My needs are taken care of. I have nice things. I can relax. I'm not worried about my future. I'm rich. I'm prepared. It's great. Look at all this luxury that's a part of my life. I can give as much as I want. I can do what I want. I'm young. That feels good, right? If you're much older, you know, the older you get, the better you were kind of mentality, where it's like, yeah, I want to stay young. I want to stay vibrant in what I used to be able to do and what I thought I could do. And you kind of hold on to that youthfulness because it's strength, it's energy. It means I have more time. It means my knees don't really hurt. My back doesn't really hurt. It's okay. Keep going, you know? We want to be young, and then we want to be a ruler, right? Anything, I'm responsible. If you give me the thing to do, I'll get it done. People listen to me. People follow me. I can organize. I can get it. And so we want to be the ruler. It says we're successful. It says we can handle responsibility and we can build things and we have creativity. So to say the rich young ruler and to be known as that feels great. Who wouldn't want to be that? Now, this rich young ruler comes to Jesus, and he comes up to him and he says, "Teacher, what good deed must I do to have eternal life?" It's interesting that he still felt like something was missing. Where I would look and say, man, that guy's got it. Look how well he's doing. But he's saying, I don't know. Something doesn't feel right. And verse 17 says, Jesus answers, says, "Why do you ask me about what is good? There's only one who is good. If you would enter life, keep the commandments." So Jesus' response to his question is pretty interesting. When he says, what could I do to have eternal life? He says, well, keep the commandments. But we know that's not what Jesus taught throughout his career. I don't know, is that a wrong word? Throughout his ministry. Right? He taught that he was the way, the truth, the life. He didn't say you had to keep the commandments. He said you had to follow him. So what he's doing here is he's sending a curveball to this guy. He's doing a setup pitch because the next one is the one he's going to get him with. So he's getting him to follow down this train of thought. He's taking him deeper into the mirror of his own self. He says, keep all the commandments. And the guy said, well, what commandments? Jesus says, well, don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't bear false witness, honor your father and mother, love your neighbor as yourself. Like, these are like the top 5 that we would all agree, yeah, those are good, do that. And his answer was, I do that. I keep all these commandments. So Jesus is carrying more into this image he has. I'm the rich young ruler, and I'm also a pretty good guy. I don't break commandments. I go to church. People think I'm good. I think I'm good. I look good in a mirror. And so Jesus then sets it up like this. Jesus said to him, if you would be perfect, go, sell what you possess and give to the poor, and you'll have treasure in heaven, and come follow me. So Jesus takes this moment to use a mirror to expose what his real God was. And that was his comfort in his money and his success. He says, leave that behind and come follow me. Well, we know the only way to eternal life is to follow Jesus Christ. And whatever it is that you sacrifice or give up to do that, then that's what you sacrifice or give up to follow Christ. Because he is the way of salvation. And so he's putting this mirror of reflection. He says, yeah, you're good. And you have a lot of good qualities. But he's not willing to follow Jesus. In fact, when he puts this idea of sell all your things and come follow me, it says he walks away. Sadly, he walks away. It's like he couldn't do that. He still wanted to rely on his goodness and his security and what he could do for himself. When he looked in the mirror, he says, I don't have any sin. Jesus, I'm already good. He wanted Jesus just to validate his image of himself. Even though he was asking Jesus the question, he didn't want the answer. He's like, Jesus, what must I do to have eternal life? But really, he says, Jesus, don't you want me? Like, I'm a rich young ruler. I can fund some good stuff that you've got going on here. I have a vision laid out for your ministry. And he wasn't willing to take that. Now, look how sad that is. And I want you to think about that in your life. Is God revealing to you what he sees? You see, Psalm 139 is a question, or it's a prayer that we should be praying for ourselves. Because we can get caught up in what we think of ourselves or what other people say about us, but that's not really the truth. Psalm 139 says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Think of that prayer. That prayer is to bring us to what is true. Because we could think of ourselves better than who we are. Sometimes worse, right? We could carry shame and guilt and just let that say, I'm not worthy of anything from you, God. But this verse says, search me, know me, reveal to me whatever it is, God, that you want to reveal, and then put me on the correct path. Do you see the openness there? The willingness to let go of my identity or opinion of what it is and just say, God, what is your opinion of me? And let God speak to you through that. The only way we do that is through spending that time with him. These gatherings are a part of that. They jumpstart it for you. This time of prayer, this time of listening to God's word, of hearing someone else try to show you God's word in a different way. It's stirring your heart and your mind, but you know it has to carry past this. Do you read God's word on your own? Do you spend time in prayer? Is this prayer a part of your life where you say, God, search me? What do you see in me right now? If you ask God to show you what's in you and declare what is true, because that could be very healing. Healing in the sense that it could expose the things that are wrong, but also healing in the sense that God loves you. He made you. You are important and valuable to him, and he has given beautiful gifts of grace in you. And you might not even see them or believe they're there until you say, God, show me what's there. Show me what it is. We see this happen to another person. Peter. Peter is like, top 3 disciples. One of the few you can name, right? Peter, James, John. After that, it's like, All right, he's there, inner circle. Peter's the great one. He's the one who gets it done. Just moves forward. Action. Let's just get after it. Peter goes from faith to failure. And then from forgiveness to freedom. Now he goes from faith to failure. We think, isn't it supposed to be the opposite? Isn't all the bad things you did in the past and then your faith now is forever in the future, right? But Peter, he was a man of great faith, and he failed miserably. Think of this. You put this story together from 3 or 4 different parts of the Gospels, but in John 13, it says Jesus was talking about going over to the cross and that he needed to go and be alone and sacrifice, that this was coming. And Peter goes, well, wherever you're going, I'm going. I'll follow you. And Jesus says, no, you can't go where I'm going. I'm going to make a sacrifice. You can't do this. And Peter's like, I can. I will follow you. I'll lay down my life for you. I'm going to be there. I got you. Full of faith. Full of this, I will follow you. And Jesus responds to him, yeah, well, before, I had so much trouble with this statement. Before the chicken speaks, you will deny me 3 times. In the early service, I couldn't figure out, what do chickens do? Cock-a-doodle do, but that sounds so weird. And do roosters do it? Before the rooster cries, I needed to go to a farm. You will deny me. Before the chicken quacks, you will deny me. Whatever chickens do, that's what's going to happen. And so in that moment, he tells Peter, yeah, you're full of faith. You're going to fail me miserably before this even happens. And so what happens? Jesus is arrested. He's carried away. They take him away, and now he's in court, and Peter's waiting outside the trial. And the first person looks at Peter. He goes, hey, aren't you one of those disciples of Jesus? The guy who's... Peter's like, no, that's not me. Second person comes. Peter, I can tell by your accent, you've been with Jesus. You guys talk the same. You guys have the same look, the same sandal, Oh. He's like, no, that's not me. Denies him again. Third time, it says that a slave girl comes to him and says, aren't you one of his disciples? I've seen you. Now, interesting why God would use this as the third person. Because in court or in public opinion, a slave girl has no ability to make a witness or an accusation. She's completely silent in the society. So even if he says to that girl, yeah, I am a disciple, she can't do anything about it. She can't rat him out, report him or anything. He could be like, now go run along. But still, even though there was that no fear, the fear had already enwrapped him. And when she says it, he curses. You got a disciple cursing now. And he says, I don't know who this man is. And it says, as soon as he said that one, then the rooster cries. And immediately all that mirror of Jesus saying, no, you're going to fail me, he sees it. It says he ran out and he wept bitterly. I can understand that. That's such a hard image to try to get. You've got this fisherman, this, alpha male, go get it. What are we waiting for? I'm going to cut this ear off. This guy just crying, just breaks down at his failure. That's so heartbreaking, right? And he believed he was going to be the one to do it. He believed he would follow Jesus and he wouldn't fail him. He wanted to, but when the time came, he failed. Have you ever been in that spot? You ever done something that's just so out of character for you? You're like, that's not who I am. I can't believe I did that. Or I can't believe there was this time in my life where I was that person. That's not who I ever wanted to be. Or maybe there's something that you're hiding because, I don't want this to be known by anyone because this isn't what I'm about, but this is what I'm doing. And there's all this shame and this darkness and this fear and this sin that's there. And it's buried and it's impacting your relationships because it's still there. And you know it's there and you're hiding it or it's haunting you and it's still there. And it's breaking you down. That's where Peter was. Now, important thing to note from here out, Peter doesn't know how to get back. Jesus dies on the cross, and 3 days later, he raises from the dead. And Peter's one who's rushing to see the tomb and that he's not there. And then the disciples are just kind of waiting around, like it's done. Jesus did what he said he was going to do. But Peter's like, yeah, but I ruined this. So he just goes back to fishing. Because that's what he knows how to do. That's his identity. I'm a good fisherman. That's what I do. I'm a terrible disciple. I showed that. God's done with me. Let me go fishing. And so one day Jesus is on the beach and he's got a fire going and he's cooking fish for his disciples, and he brings them over and he specifically goes to Peter because he cares about him. Jesus goes to him, and in John 21, which is like the last chapter of the Gospels, this is the closing story of Jesus' life on earth. This is the closing story of him going to Peter, the person who miserably failed him, going to Peter and saying, Peter, do you love me? Peter goes, you know I love you, Lord. Jesus says, then feed my sheep. He invites him back into the disciples. He says, Peter, do you love me? A second time. And Peter goes, you know I love you. He says, tend to my sheep. He's inviting him in. He has seen his sin. It's completely exposed. It's gut-wrenching. It's sad. It's sorrowful. It's heartbreaking. But the grace says, come, I still love you. I still have something for you. The third time. And it's the third time, and you can see it clicks in Peter's mind too, what he's doing here, because it's the third time Peter gets emotionally upset. He goes, look, you know that I love you. And he's connecting back to those 3 times he denied him. 3 times he denied him, and 3 times Jesus restores him. He forgives him. He says, you're still with us. Come feed my sheep. Come tend my sheep. Come and do that. That's what grace and truth is. Jesus has the truth to expose our sin for what it is, to not deny it or pretend it's not there or bury it. The truth about it. And when we agree with God on the truth about our sin, we've taken that step towards grace, because God has grace enough to forgive us our sins and to restore us in relationship with Him. But if we're still denying the existence and the fact of it, then we're not receiving the grace and the forgiveness for it. So Peter went from faith to failure, but then when he met Jesus, he went from forgiveness to freedom. Because Peter is used as the primary person for God's ministry in starting the church. And you know what he doesn't have to do? He doesn't have to go back and explain how he failed as a disciple, because Jesus already took care of it. He says, you're already the one. I've chosen you. I've brought you in. Go forward with the work I have for you. You don't have to keep talking about the past and living in it. I've died for it. I've forgiven it. And I've restored you. Jesus offers you all of that. Whatever the sin that is hidden, whatever the sin is in your past, Jesus has already died for it. It's not that he didn't know it would ever happen or that you ever did it. It's exposed truly to him and to you. And now he invites you to receive forgiveness. When you see what 1 John 1:8 says, it says, if we say we have no sin, we only deceive ourselves, and truth is not in us. But verse 9 says, if we confess our sin, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. It's perfect. It's clean. You are restored, forgiven, and free. Jesus has already taken care of it for you. So I pray that both you and I, because we wrestle this at all points in our life, it's not a one-time realization, that we would realize that Jesus gives you grace enough to face the truth about yourself and to find freedom in his love. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, this is hard for us to understand because we don't really treat each other that way. We love those who are good to us and punish those who are bad to us. And so the idea of grace gets really hard. God, we really feel like if we're good enough, you'll love us, and if we're bad, you won't. So God, teach us this lesson. Help us not to hide from things, from one another and from you. Help us not to lie about who we are, but see the truth that you have have shown us in your word. Help us to accept our sin, not with joy, but accept it with humility like Peter did, broken, so that you could rebuild us and restore us. Help us to see that we are your children, loved, that we are your chosen, that we're your workmanship, your masterpiece, that you have a plan and desire to use us, all of our brokenness included, to be done for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.